Hi, welcome to chapter 2 of Elements of Programming. So please download the slides from the Google Classroom, and please review the slides before we go through this presentation, this online presentation or tutorial per se. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom into certain topics here, and what I want to show you and remind you about is about the data types, right? So in C++, as an overview of the C++ data type, there are somewhat particularly different data types here. We see there's a uh, programmer defined data type. These are integers, floating points, characters, and booleans. There are also class data types that are, and we and different types of it will be a built-in data type and a class data type, and this all of this constitute to a C++ data type. Um, what we're going to play today is particularly on maybe integer characters or strings or floating points in this setting. Uh, so data types have particularly specific storage sizes. You can find out what the storage size of it by using the command size of, which provides the number of bytes required to store a particular data type. So, selecting a particular data type is really important if you want to come up with really good and efficient programming, right? The wrong data type could be maybe excessive or wasteful in the terms of using memories in your program. Um, so if we look into this, we'll see that storage sizes for characters we consider it as one, which means that the range and it has a range of 256 characters. Boolean is basically a true or false, and it's considered only has 0 or 1, right? So look into this, and your integers are bigger, just short integers, unsigned short integers. They all specifically define a specific range in the type of numbering that you can go. Floating points are much bigger in that range. With regards to the number of floating points it can support. Double and long supports a uh, particularly bigger range, but they also have a requires bigger storage. For example, here, for example, the double and long double actually needs 8 bytes. Right? So they are um, So there are a couple of notations when we are considering floating points. There is the decimal notation, exponential notations that support with the e to the power 2, or a scientific notation over here. Mm. And arithmetic operations can be either plus, minus, multiplication, or division in this sense, right? Okay, let's look into your programming, right? So remember, you guys have you need a C++ compiler. You can use the online version, or particularly some kind of a, a web version here. Now, for starters, let's start off with um, a compiler that you can download uh, from the web, right? So open your browser, right, and look into. There are two types here. You can download the Dev C++ version, um, or what I want to look at basically that mostly we support with most operating system, particularly Windows version. I don't think they have a Linux version. It's the Dev C++ compiler, IDE, Integrated Development Environment. And if you look here, this is the particular link that you looking for, sourceforge.net. /project/orwell dev cpp. The last update was in 2016, but it works very fine. And it's free, so you click the download link and download and install it. And after you install, what you're gonna see is basically a IDE. I mean, there's some default questions during the installation, so just go ahead with that. Now, when you start off with your dev C++, right? So what you're gonna do, basically, let me close this first, and I'll show you first. File, new source file. You can start writing your program here. You can see on the left there's a particularly number of lines, and most C++ program basically starts off with the include header here. Sorry, include, right? Um, Input output stream. Right. This is the library to handle input output stream or data coming in and out in the stream. So remember to include the namespace standard here. This basically enforce the use of a standard library, namespace library. Alright, so when you have this, still remember the semicolon. Most programming in C++ or all programming in C++ requires a semicolon for an execution of a statement. Now, every program, as described in chapter 1 earlier, start with the main function. The main function basically tells you where a particular program is. And remember the semicolons. Now, the use of IDE particularly helps you in visualizing your programming. You can see that once I type in the semicolon, it has a matching curly braces here, right? And here you can start programming, maybe see out, hello world, right? Remember again the semicolon and return 0 in this sense, right? Since your program function is the type of integer, so it requires to return some kind of integer again, right? We can set it as a returning as something as 0. Now you can save this. After saving it, right, you can choose a file name. It's been nice to call the file.cpp, basically telling you that the particular file is a C++ program. Click save. Right, I already have that, so it's just override it. Now there are three options here. You can compile, you can run, or compile and run, right? So two things at once. What I'm gonna do here is basically compile and run, and you're gonna see the program will try to compile it and come out with a output of saying it's hello world, right? Okay. So try it out. Try to compile and run it. You should be seeing the output on your screen. Right? So I'm gonna stop here, and we're gonna continue later with maybe a different slide, programming with regards to using integers.